Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday and happy end of a holiday week. This is Faith Family Focus. I am Faith Suggs, one of your co-hosts, CEO, and founder of Brand by Faith, and a former Duke women's basketball graduate, now starting in the world of adulthood. This wonderful man next to me is my father, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals. And also, I want to say, he's one of the top two sport athletes in all of Ball State history, they say, of all college athletics. He also has all these All-Americans and state awards that I didn't know about until I was working on his bio this week. But good morning, Schaefer Suggs. Welcome to
Morning.
Focus.
You know, that's the great thing about this show. We have kind of really learned about each other over the last 2 years. So,
It's sick. There should be no reason I don't know these things about you. You need to boast more.
oh, that's sweet of you. That's sweet of you.
No, very cool bio. But yeah, how was your Thanksgiving week? Talk to us a little bit about, how was your holiday?
Well, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's very different. Every year gets different. Of course, I think the best moment that I had with the three of us is we are making sweet potato pie simultaneously together.
No. You made me feel terrible about my sweet potato
No,
pie.
you're
Stop responding to him.
you're initially, well, it was your facial expression that got me.
I looked crazy. No, my sweet potato pies did come out good though.
Right.
Everyone liked them.
No, I love sweet potato pie. And actually, Devin only had one slice. The one thing that I want to make sure for Christmas, I showed you this last night, is I'm going to use thin crust, not the deep dish. You don't want to put too much sweet potatoes in it. That's a lot of pie there. So, but it was wonderful. Got a chance to spend Thanksgiving with my brother Mike in Burley, Rosalind, sister-in-law. It was really nice. And the menu, I shared the menu with you. It was really nice. But then you shared your first. I wish you had pictures of your first Thanksgiving that you cooked. I wish I was there too. I mean, you had a really nice spread. Really impressive.
Thanksgiving is a beast. I don't think that I'm going to cook next year. I think that
Tell me about
that. I don't want to cook. I'm just getting the photo for you guys. I don't want to cook. So it's just exhausting. People don't talk about it enough. Thanksgiving is an exhausting holiday.
That's right. You did say you took a nap really soon after because you were so exhausted.
No, I was so tired. Like just we went from 7 to 3. Because you had to go to the grocery store.
Let me see. Did you have more people than you thought you were gonna have?
Well, I was told the night before we were getting more people. So that's why we rushed the things to the grocery store. But yeah, we had excuse my Suggs mug. We had yams, mashed potatoes, all from scratch. Well, except for the candy yams. I'm not doing that because I already did sweet potato pie. Did you know they sell candy yam stuff in like a can?
Yes.
You could cook it. Anybody can cook now. Yams, ham, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, mac and cheese, of course, turkey. I'm trying to think what else we got. Cornish hens.
Yeah, Cornish hens. Did you eat the Cornish hens?
No, not really. Not a big Cornish hen fan, but I probably will eat it because we have one more in the fridge still to try it. But I don't like hard foods to eat.
Right.
Like working at it. You don't eat fast. So if I have to work at my food, I get frustrated. I wonder where I learned that from. Okay, I have my plate here from our food.
You mean your pile plate?
My pile plate. Well, you have to. I didn't like my food to touch when I was younger, but when I got older, there's my food.
Oh my goodness!
Corn, mashed potatoes, some chicken that was air fried. The yams are right there with the marshmallows, mac and cheese, ham, all that fun stuff. But yeah, that is my Thanksgiving plate.
So you get the paper plates too, huh?
Yeah, no, it's time for dish. Well, I'm not. I didn't do any actually dishes that night. I went to sleep at 7. But yeah, Thanksgiving was nice. I'm never cooking until maybe 2023. So no one called me about 2022. I need a whole year and a half to recuperate.
You recuperate, right?
It's a beast.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
Your aunt Burley had, you saw her menu. They had 2 different types of turkeys, prime rib. They had ham. They had everything. 2 different types of rice dressing.
So I do want to point something out to you. Did they have mac and cheese?
They did.
Okay. Apparently, there's this issue going on social media, as well as one of the NFL players. I can't remember who he plays for. They caught him in press conference. He has an issue with, is mac and cheese actually good? He said that it's just noodles with cheese and not good. And that came to a question. There's a lot of people who apparently don't like mac and cheese. Now, Stephen A. Smith said that it's a cultural dish.
It is a cultural dish.
It's a cultural dish. But also, he was like, are your taste buds burned off? Like, my thing is, we as Americans especially, put cheese on everything. Like, we put cheese on everything to make it better, right? Chili cheese dog, cheese fries, nacho cheese, mac and cheese. Like, think about all the things growing up what you ate that you were supposed to eat had cheese on it. Pizza, we put cheese on everything. Right. So no, it's not a surprise that mac and cheese, when baked and mixed around and really good, with 4 different types of cheeses. And if you have to ask Devin, Suggs, he adds Gouda. Your mac and cheese is like a staple piece, and everyone wants seconds of the mac and cheese. So if you're saying you don't like mac and cheese, I don't trust you. So that is my thing. If you're watching today, let us know. Maybe we're biased. Maybe we don't know what we're talking about. But I think mac and cheese. No, that was a big thing. Mac and cheese. They said mac and cheese should not be on the dinner table for Thanksgiving.
Okay, so who? Okay, I would like to ask who asked that question.
Who said that?
Yeah,
I don't remember the guy's name.
Okay,
but he was very passionate about his not liking mac and cheese.
Okay, so he did
very passionate with the media. Like he lost the game. Yeah, but no, Thanksgiving was wonderful. I think one thing that it's hard not to talk about, right? Because Thanksgiving, we're also in. See. It is. So we're talking about Thanksgiving, but we're also in the middle of Native American Heritage Month. Did you know that, Dad?
No.
Yeah. So November is Native American Heritage Month, or Indigenous Peoples Month, as you like to call it. And one thing that I spent the week up to Thanksgiving was like educating myself on the truth of Thanksgiving. Yeah, it has to be a Thanksgiving. I don't understand what you're supposed to eat instead of mac and cheese. Like, you don't even have to like it. Like, if you look at my plate, I don't really like yams like that because we ate them way too much growing up. For like every meal, we had sweet potatoes. But like, I only got a little bit, but I feel like it's just something you have on the table. It also looks good next to everything.
Wait. Let's before you. So the mac and cheese recipe.
Yeah.
Is it your mom's recipe? It's our family recipe, right?
It is not my mother's recipe, no.
No, not your mother's, but your. Well, she actually did pretty good with it, didn't she? I'm trying to remember.
We never ate mac and cheese then.
So we didn't get mac and cheese until we went to the Suggs family. Okay.
Yeah. And that's dark. Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Literally, right?
Mac and cheese. Suggs mac and cheese recipe comes from your nieces.
Okay.
It comes from your side. That's where we got it. And then Devin mixed it up and added like Gouda.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It was so good.
Mac and cheese is an art form. People don't realize it. If you're not putting eggs in your mac and cheese, questionable.
So your friend Shannon, I went to visit your friend Shannon, and she was shredding her cheese.
Devin shreds his Gouda. But then again,
okay.
Gouda, you have to shred Gouda. You can't just buy Gouda. I don't think they sell it in like shredded cheese pack.
Right. Okay.
But if she was shredding sharp, that's so much work.
Yeah. So he sent me to go and get the cheeses, right? And I came back. I still have probably 5 pounds of cheese in the refrigerator because I didn't get the sharp cheddar cheese.
It's particular. You gotta pay attention. You did this to me for Christmas.
Okay.
But I will say this with the mac and cheese. It is an art form at the end of the day, whether you like it or not. It's one of those things that culturally you think about tradition, you think about looking at things at the table. Normally, you always have mashed potatoes, but you always also have mac and cheese. So yeah, but back to what I was saying, Native American Heritage Month in November. I feel like not a lot of people know about it, but what an awesome month. I got to educate myself a little bit on the truth of Thanksgiving. And obviously we all know Thanksgiving is not as fun and jolly as we learned in school. And we've seen kind of the transition of Thanksgiving be, instead of the dinner between pilgrims and Native Americans and indigenous people, instead of now it's a tradition of just giving thanks and being around family, but acknowledging that stuff is not true in the history of stuff. And it's very unfortunate because we all were taught that. But as we're growing as a country and growing as people, we're learning. So what I learned was Native Americans, so there's a certain tribe, I forgot how to pronounce it, and that was their summer land, right? And they would travel there for the summer and come back, and they had already come across Europeans. And I don't even think Christopher Columbus, that whole fact is confusing to me. We don't even know if that's true. But as we're venturing on as historians, the Europeans then came back during that time period, and the Native Americans had then, came to their summer land, their summer houses, their summer area, and that's when they clashed. And it's interesting because the very tribe that was there had 3 different tribes within it, with one chief, and it was very democratic, very organized, very well put together. And so I'm telling you, a lot of history we learn about that time period, and they say it wasn't at all a feast. It was the pilgrims were eating, and the Native Americans just pulled up and were like,
they rolled up, huh?
Yeah, it was awkward. They say it had to be. And so very interesting. And I'm glad that we're starting to acknowledge the truth about Thanksgiving, which is unfortunate, but we're starting to see it transition instead of from a Native American unfair holiday to more, it's about tradition. It's about being around family, it's about giving thanks. And maybe we switch it to the third Friday of November. I don't know, but it's,
thanks for sharing that.
Holidays. I don't know. It's just something cool I learned. Ignorance is one of the worst things on the earth. So if you continue to learn as you grow, it's you're doing right by society, especially American society. But yeah, so what an awesome Thanksgiving and holiday weekend as we head into December, Wednesday, December 1st. For those of you who don't know, it's holiday season. It's currently Hanukkah. I don't know if anybody knows that, but so we are surrounded by so many holidays and so many family moments and memories and, decorations and Christmas trees and all the fun things that come with the winter time up to December 24th, 25th. And we wanted to dedicate, this show to an awesome new series, which is, surviving the holidays. Because I feel like this time period from Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve is overwhelmingly jolly. And it was only right for us to kind of dive into some of the things that we've experienced through our holidays as a family, holidays individually and independently, especially throughout this pandemic and through, the experiences we've had in our life. So we're going to dive into a couple of those things in an awesome series we have. Today, we're going to talk about Home Alone, if you can't tell by the little guy right there. What a great holiday movie. We're talking about being home and alone for the holidays, not just Thanksgiving, not just, Hanukkah, not just Christmas, but altogether just being home alone during this time periods. But before we get into that, Dad, I wanted to kind of give you a second to talk a little bit about our awesome thing going on with the retired professional former players of Chicago. It's Giving Tuesday on Tuesday, tomorrow. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that and what you guys are raising money for?
So our Pillars of Giving, the retired professional football players of Chicago, over the last 30 years, we have been, every year we give out 2 scholarships to scholar athletes, 1 male, 1 female. We've extended that giving to a youth grant, a youth football grant for underprivileged football programs that need really the support too. And we have, and I know that Wendell is putting the stats. Wendell Davis, our president of the retired professional football players of Chicago, also the president of our former Chicago chapter, is putting down the stats, but it's close to upward to $800,000 or $900,000 of giving that we have been able to provide these athletes over the last 20 or 30 years. And tomorrow is Giving Tuesday, and we are we want people to embrace what we do and give to support these athletes. And these are athletes that have come on. We have one, and I can't think of his name. He's going to come back. He's going to be at our Christmas show, but he's a doctor right now. And he shared with Wendell that he said he remembered the money that we gave him was the difference between him going to Notre Dame. And so those are the kind of things that brings joy to our organization, that we can make an impact on these kids. And we will continue to make an impact on these kids. So please give. A part of our core values as former athletes is not just to provide, the camaraderie that we have, but to give. And they say that you don't keep it unless you give it away. Well, that's what we want to do tomorrow. We want all of you to support our Giving Tuesday. Also, I'm also on the executive board of Loaves and Fishes. They're also having a Giving Tuesday. They have been feeding hunger families for the last 30 years. And so that's another opportunity for us to give too. But really excited about what you've done, Faith. You actually have been spearhead. You actually are social media manager for our Midwest chapter for the NFLPA. Yep. And you're doing a phenomenal job of providing the resources and the branding and the social media for that.
Yep. It's been exciting. And for Giving Tuesday, the website, www.rpfpc.org, will be live no later than today for you guys, get to know the RPFPC, the NFLPA Chicago chapter, and get to know a little bit more about Giving Tuesday. But just a reminder, we will be posting it on our Facebook page. They'll post it on RPFPC Facebook page. You can also visit Twitter and Instagram at Chicago RPFPC to, narrow down that link and kind of, donate even $5, $10, $1 million, whatever you want to give. You're just going to be helping a young leader in the next generation, and they're going to start. So the academic scholarships and the youth grants, once again, is where all the funds are going to go to. So exciting stuff by our RPFPC, our Chicago chapter. So let's dive right into today's show, though. That was an awesome opportunity for us to move on to, the holidays and holiday vibes and joy. And so, like our little guy sat down there, Kevin, home alone for the holidays. What an awesome show to start with. So I one thing that came across me as I was thinking about topics for, the holiday season, I kept coming across a lot of things on social media. People were talking about being home alone for the holidays like we were in the pandemic, and some people still are, or they've lost loved ones, or they just moved jobs because everybody moved around so much, or all these things. People were now starting to be alone for Thanksgiving. For Christmas, and so one of the things that came across, and it was like they were talking about, how to stay positive, how to be optimistic and support your mental health and all of these things. Then I was like, what do you consider being alone for the holidays? Like, what is alone? Is alone not being in a relationship? Is alone being structurally by yourself in your home? Is you alone going to be with family, but you don't like your family? Like, as you look back on it, and maybe you've never been alone for the holidays, but talk to a little bit of what you think about this topic and what you consider alone for the holidays, because it has many layers to it.
Yes. And for me, my life has changed, as our life has changed over the last 10 years, it's a perfect topic to talk about. For me, as a father, I look forward to that closeness that I have with you guys. But as years progress, when you went to college, you stayed at school.
Yeah.
And so Devin and I, now it's just Devin. He came home this year, but of course when he is here, I'm still alone because he does his own thing. But I think each family is different.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said something earlier. Although that your presence wasn't here, the fact that we were able to FaceTime and we were able to share what we were doing cooking wise.
Yeah.
For me, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate being able to have that connection. I think that's the key, the connection. I feel bad for families that are estranged, that they don't have the connection, that they're not talking to their family, and they're not having that type of bond. And that's the most important. I think the most important thing is no matter where you are geographically, physically, that you continue to have that bond and that connection, because families change.
Yep.
We grow up, and for example, you were having your own Thanksgiving dinner, and that brought joy to my heart that you were actually cooking. You probably won't do it for a while, but
Yeah.
we were actually doing it simultaneously. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, Faith, and we'll continue to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I guess my next question is, can you be alone for Thanksgiving? And you touched a little bit on this. Maybe we could dive a little bit, this opportunity for us to dive a little bit more into it. Can you be alone for Thanksgiving or for the holidays, but still be around family? Like, what is that? And for me, I guess I'll give my opinion a little bit on it so it can kind of set you up. Is I think that what we've seen in the last couple of years, as the world has gotten way more vulnerable and more honest about our beliefs, our political beliefs, our understanding of how social injustice is working in the system, we're a lot more outspoken on our beliefs, right? we that's not just the last 2 years, but the last 4 years, as to say, right? And this past election. And one of the things I've noticed, especially going to school in the South, is I have a lot of former Dukies and a lot of former, friends from college, which Duke is a very liberal institution, struggle going back home
Interesting.
with their Southern, more conservative family members. And the very feeling of being at those dinner tables for Thanksgiving or for holidays or for Christmas and not being able to bite their tongue or feel comfortable being their authentic self around family. And I guess that's my kind of question is, can you be alone but still be around family? And at what age? Actually, go ahead, take that, because I actually have a great follow-up question for you.
That's interesting that you shared that, because this is the first year that families have been together after such an impactful year and a half culturally in our society. And, I think that type of tension exists already, Faith, because
Yeah.
it is the first time a lot of family members see each other. And a lot of times there's other family dynamics have that are kind of underlining too.
Yeah.
And hopefully people can departmentalize and separate those emotions and just enjoy the day. But it is interesting that this is the first time since we've been able to get back with our family members, especially with family members that maybe have more of a diverse family,
Mm-hmm.
culturally diverse family. Um, that might be that might exist more
Right.
than, but that is interesting that
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's hard not to for my generation because all we do is try to attack people. You know what I mean? It's always
Right, right.
very my generation is very outspoken and in their beliefs and what they stand for, and it's beautiful, right? Because it's pushing change, but it is put them up in front of a lot of confrontational conversations. One of the things I would say about this is what age do you decide to step away from the very traditions you were raised on, right? The traditions we did on Christmas Eve, the traditions you did on Thanksgiving, the traditions, not just what age, but I mean, some people hold these traditions of going to grandma's house or uncle so-and-so's house for so long for Christmas or this or that. And then eventually life happens.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you lose a parent, you lose a grandparent, so that central hub is not there, or you lose a parent where you're no longer, like us, we weren't as connected to that other side of our family for that long period of time because that binding bridge was no longer there. So for me, I can't help but think about it, is I'm watching a lot of people generationally step away from their traditions. It's because of what we were just talking about. It's because of life, right? And I think now people are starting to look more towards independence around the holidays, like starting their own traditions. And I think the age between the 20s is when that starts to happen. But you know what? You have done it multiple times in your life where you switch up traditions for the holidays. Talk to us a little bit about that. Because I think for my 20s, it's really because we're just evolving and we're trying new spaces, right? But for you're showing us that you do it multiple times through life.
Yeah, you do go through different chapters when it comes to holiday traditions, and for my experiences from college, not being, I would be home for Christmas, but I was never home for Thanksgiving. Um, so I got a chance to understand that. And then when I started playing professionally, I was never home for Thanksgiving. I got home for Christmas. For the first time in my life, though, as I redefined my life after football and had a family, I really enjoyed what it was like to have the family, watching you guys, the excitement and the joy watching you guys enjoy the traditions, whether it's Halloween, whether it's Thanksgiving, whether it's Christmas, and then bring you guys into the other families. Going to mommy's family, going to your grandpa's family, being able to experience that. So that's something that everybody goes through. But now, as we get further, down the road, I'm finding the same kind of joy of watching you guys kind of learn how to um, redefine your own traditions. This is the first year that I watch you have your own piece of your own tradition, defining your own tradition. That is still part of coming back home. And so people, I think the really interesting question is, people, are the kids coming back home? Right? Well, yeah.
For empty nesters, especially because
we're
starting to see as when you hit that college years, when you start to turn the wheels a little bit into your independence.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, what is home? Home is always our family. That's our home. I mean, it doesn't have to be a physical place. That's what I'm learning. We've actually even talked about having Christmas somewhere else together. Because our lives have changed. We don't live in the house that you guys grew up anymore.
Right.
So that changes everything. So I think it's fluid, but I think the most important thing that I am so grateful for is that we still have our connection.
What I would 100% agree with the fact that what you said is that home is where, the corny word, home is where your heart is. Home is where your home can be in multiple places right now. Home could be in New Haven, Connecticut, could be Chicago, Illinois, it could be wherever it is where family is, right? And I think that's one thing that could kind of transition a little bit into the people who are alone on holidays and sad and struggling. Because there's a lot of people who maybe didn't get to go home for Thanksgiving or didn't have a place to go home to for Thanksgiving, and they didn't get any turkey, or they didn't get, they're dreading Christmas because, travel for Christmas might be too expensive. So they have to stay in New York, or, you know what I mean? And so what do you do if you're sad, if you're alone for the holidays? What is one thing that helps you kind of get through it? And I have a few top ways to do it. So number one was treat yourself in a memorable or nostalgic way. How are ways you can do that? I think that one thing that I've learned through the years, when you're alone for the holidays, and I've never been alone, but I've been away, right? I don't get all of the holidays as an athlete. One of the things you learn is that you take advantage of the traditions that you were raised on and creating your own. So one thing I did in New York, I think my second year is I got a Christmas tree. My first year I didn't have one. I remember that. I didn't have one. And my second year I was like, screw it, I'm just going to get a Christmas tree. You don't realize how happy you are about your Christmas tree until you get it, right? Even though mine was broken, I had to fix it up. But that's one tradition or something you can do to pull out the memories, pull out the tradition that you're used to and kind of run with it. It could be that. It could be listening to Christmas music. It could be going to visit, traditional Christmas things in your area, right? It could be, creating time with friends. But all those type of things is filling up that hole of what you think that you're missing, which you probably are, and trying to kind of help you move through it, right? Because it's hard for a lot of people to be disconnected from what they're used to, especially when it comes to holidays, because holidays are where some of our happiest, joyful time, the memories come as being the children. So that's one thing I think. I don't know. What do you think about that one? And then, or any things that you would suggest in terms of that?
Well, if you were sharing that with me, I want to share the emotions or, things I've been thinking about over the last day or two as I unpack and get my place ready for Christmas.
Yeah.
Because everything that I have for Christmas is everything that we have for Christmas in terms of decorations. And so I make a decision. on the Christmas tree. I put the same ornaments up that we always have. We always had two trees. Um, but I find myself, okay, not putting out as much and having to make a choice on what to put up, what not to put up based off of our tradition, you know?
Right.
And that's hard because what I'm experiencing is there's a change there, that, you know, because when you guys come home. I say call home, even though this is not your home. This is always your home because your dad's here. If I come to you, that's where my home is because you're there. If I go see Devin, that's where our home is. But if you come, you want to see something that makes you remember how it was.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is important as a father. I'm learning as a parent. You still want to keep that. And I remember my mom wanted to have that bond when we came back to her house. I want you to see your Teletubby. I want to see all those ornaments. I want you to be able to see those things. So it is interesting. It's an interesting question because I'm kind of going through it right now. So over the next 30 days, I'm the anticipation of you guys coming back home and trying to make it as close to our tradition as we possibly can, but knowing that it's not going to be exactly the same it was previous year. That makes sense?
Yeah, nothing. Well, yeah, obviously, I agree with that completely. I think when we when we try to hold on to tradition, sometimes it's not out of desperation, but more out of like it's like it keeps you centered. It keeps you, like you said, it brings home to your life again. Because for many years we move. The further we move from the idea of what once was, we lose those memories. We lose those that morality that comes with your childhood, right? The very things that keeps you innocent and grounded and centered. And I think that that's what the holidays provides to you. And I think some of the things is it's not just being around people. That's a good thing, right? You ever been around family, you immediately remember who you were at one point in time. But I think it's sometimes the very memories you're talking about, right? Ornaments. It could be a certain dish. It could be a certain, going to the local zoo for a light show or stuff like that that brings back those memories of time and who you were and what your traditions were and where your family was and all the things. And it reminds you of where you come from and it keeps you grounded. It keeps you centered. And I think that's the beauty of bringing those things back into your life, even as you grow, even as you get older, because I think we all need those moments, especially when you're alone. But most importantly, as you're growing, because you're starting your new traditions, you're starting your new life, it's often easy to lose sight of what once was.
Yeah, it's always good to have something to hold on to. There's a beautiful commercial that I saw yesterday where this family, the kids were babies, and the father planted a tree out in the yard, a baby tree, and then every year the father and the kids would go out. Okay, is it big enough? Is it big enough? Is it big enough to cut down and put in the house? And it went on, and then the last scene was the kids were grown kids, and the tree was big enough. And they go, is it ready? And they look back at the grandfather, and the older now, and they smile and they go, no, it's not ready. And they decorate the tree because they wanted to hold on to that same memory.
Yeah.
So never cut that tree down,
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that I kind of hold on to also.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our footprint in this life, we don't want to say it comes with things.
Right.
But things very much have a funny way of putting you back where you were. Do you know what I mean? Like a certain a certain view, a certain location will always send you back in time to who you were at one time. It could be as simple as a smell. I don't know if anybody knows, like the first smell of like snow, that like sets people off who were raised around snow because they know, or the salt, right, that goes on the ground. Like all of those things bring back happy memories for some people, and sometimes that's the very memorable and nostalgic things you need to bring back to your life to kind of get you through the holidays, to get you through, being alone or trying a new tradition or being in a different space or a different country, all these things that people are going through right now. And so another thing that I was thinking about is, because we're talking about all these great things, is showing appreciation for these things. That's one of my biggest things is how can you get through being alone? How can you get through, not being around your normal tradition with family and friends and hometown And I think one thing is to share appreciation for the ground that you're standing on, um, and be where your feet are, and appreciate you have family, appreciate you have home, appreciate that you have all these things. You have the ability to be able to celebrate a holiday, whether it's on your own or not. I think one of the biggest things is when you show appreciation, and maybe this is like Thanksgiving spirit or whatever, but when you show appreciation for things, somehow your worries seem lessened, or somewhere in a way you've pushed them farther back in your mind, right? And so sometimes as we're moving forward and forward and forward towards the holidays, what you have to do is continue to be appreciation. And that's another great point. This is something I actually want to talk about towards the end, but we'll talk about it right now. The difference between lone and alone and lonely. And we've talked about this on the show before, Dad. For the holidays, there's a major difference between when you're alone, and I said this because some people choose to be alone, and when you're lonely. I love to be alone. I think every human being should love to be in their own space and be alone, right? To be able to go eat by yourself, to be able to watch movies by yourself, to be able to, all these things, right? Put your Christmas tree up by yourself. These are all wonderful things, but it's very different. And if you can identify when you are lonely, is when you need to have a self conversation. What do you feel about that?
Now, that's pretty profound. I think early on in my recovery, I found how important that was. They say, halt. Don't ever be hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Yeah. I find myself never trying to be in that space. And I don't ever remember a time where I felt that way in a long, long time where I was lonely. That's not what God wants you to be. There's so many beautiful people in your life that you can reach out to. And that's just, I think, it gets back to the whole how stressful the holidays can be.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to put people around you, but that is so important not to be in that space. And I don't know. I feel bad for someone who has struggled with being lonely.
Being lonely is a big thing that's come about, especially in these last couple of years as we're still fighting this pandemic.
Yeah.
And we're identifying what it is between loneliness and to be alone.
Yeah.
And I think that what we've seen is a lot of people thrive in being alone, right? They've done a great job starting a new life. Or a lot of people have quit their jobs and started something new, moved, right? We're seeing a lot of people start over. And when you start over, sometimes you start over alone, especially when you're young. And I think that one thing that we're seeing is people are thriving with being alone. But we're also seeing people struggle when things get hard, because life does that often. When life gets hard, when you lose family members, when you feel stressed out at work, stressed out around the holidays, it's easy to seep into loneliness. And I think that loneliness combats, or I should say loneliness jumps on the bandwagon of anxiety, of depression, of life's adversities. It comes with those things. And so that's what my thing with loneliness. I feel like loneliness is not always something you can control. I think loneliness comes with what life throws at you. And the way you build yourself up in those non-lonely times is how your body and your mind and your soul are going to respond to loneliness when it crosses your path.
Right.
And that's, I agree with you that the holiday season is hard for a lot of people because we are go for the rest of the year, right? But once we get to this kind of holiday season, the winter months, when you actually have to sit still on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, on Thanksgiving, when you have to then look around because we all have visibility to each other's lives with this thing, we start to realize what we don't have, right? Or what we're missing out on, or what so-and-so has that we don't have. And all of those things, like I said, jump on the bandwagon with loneliness. And that's where you start to have those sad thoughts and just lonely feelings instead of enjoying your space and your happiness and your freedom and bringing all these great things into your life while you're alone. It then turns it all into a sad space, which is loneliness.
Yeah. I think it's important for me. What really helped me as I progress in my own self-development is learning how to be vulnerable and ask for help and reach out to people. I think sometimes we get we isolate, and we forget that isolation does lead to loneliness. And sometimes it's easier for some people, but what has worked for me is as I have grown and progressed is having a level of vulnerability. Of course, that's having a level of trust too of the people around you. But people are going through different things during this time of the year,
Yeah.
really different types of year. So that's where you have to, I mean, pick up the phone. I mean, for me, I love picking up the phone and calling somebody that I haven't talked to in a long time. And it's just like God saying, okay, you need to talk to this person. Or you get the same thing. My friend Bobby Jackson was on his way to a funeral out in Dakotas, wherever he is. And he going by Elkhart, Indiana. He picked up the phone and called me. It's like I was just thinking about him. But things like that over the holidays, it's important to pick up the phone because you can't. And like you said, you don't like it's giving money. It's giving money. If you don't keep it unless you give it back. And that I think that's important to help people that are dealing with loneliness.
Yeah. I think another thing is about the holiday season. Everything tells us to be around loved ones, right? Like we all know the saying, don't be alone for the holidays, right? You shouldn't be home alone for the holidays, right? There's a whole movie about it, right? And I think one of the things is who set those expectations on ourselves, right? We're alone every other day. Why all of a sudden for the holidays we can't be alone? And I think that, and that's not just being, Scrooge, but more kind of like you can be alone and have a wonderful Christmas. You can be alone and have an amazing
Yeah.
Hanukkah. You can, you know what I mean? Like it's what you bring to your life, right? Is the mindset that you need to have. And I think that we're allowing these expectations of the holiday, of society to kind of make us feel bad for being alone on the holidays. And I think that it is a true thing. Like, yes, you should be around loved ones. Sure. You should be around loved ones all the time. Why don't we say it every day, right? Why don't you say be around loved ones for St. Patrick's Day? You don't. It's this idea because it's such a loving time, such a joyous time. It's about family and more and all the things that comes around the holiday season. But you have to shed those, don't allow those expectations to burden you in a way that loneliness takes over your happiness, because these are expectations placed on us by movies, by by the tradition of Christmas, right? It's never that serious. You can still enjoy these things and appreciation and still appreciate what you have and still appreciate that you have life. Maybe your life right then is on your own, but your life is your life and you make it what you want to make it, and so that's another thing. It's like to shed the expectations. I know the holiday season is built on tradition, but tradition doesn't have to mean tradition. Your tradition can evolve into what you want to make it. Make yourself your own turkey, right? Do this, do that. Maybe make a tradition that since I'm on my own, I'm going to go give back, right? All these things can be things for you that don't creep in, turn into loneliness. That's one of my, it's like shed the expectations.
So I was smiling because it's almost you also it could be a good decision not to be with family. If family is not in a good space for you, and there's anxiety and there's a lot of unhealthy stuff, a lot of toxic stuff,
Sometimes,
sometimes it's good not to be. It's good to be alone. So setting that expectation, I got to go to what's the name's house and I really don't want to.
That's what we're supposed to do
because we got issues. We've been we've been estranged, or they support this person, they support that person. You got to put some healthy boundaries up too. You have to weigh what's good for you, internally, what's good for you, and I know that it exists during the holidays. I know it does.
Yeah.
In our family, it doesn't, and I hope it never does. But I see it. So, but you got to make that decision to put up those boundaries and say, you know what, I'm not going there today, or am I going to go there a certain period of time, or put a time limit? I'm going to go there and know I have another stop, just to make it. But it's a decision you got to make. But I just
The
wanted to.
holidays are stressful. That's the whole
Yes.
point of why this series is called Surviving the Holidays. It's wonderful and joyous. I know we all get happy when that first snow comes, when we finally get the tree up, when you put the lights out, when the Christmas commercials start playing after Halloween. We all get so excited. Holidays are stressful because they're expensive. You got to travel all the time. Think about it. You got all these traditions you got to uphold. You got to cook. You got to do all these things that come with the holidays. And we all say it's worth it because it is. But the holidays are what you make it. And don't put yourself out there over and over and over again to be exhausted, to be put down, to be diminished, to be stressed out. All these things that could come with it in your particular situation. You should be making your holidays what you want to make your holidays. And if that's being alone, that's being alone. If that's being around people you just met, right? Your people in your apartment building, that's your new family. But that the holidays are what you make it. And I think sometimes tradition can be overwhelming and be the very reason holiday is stressful.
Right.
But we love the holidays. But I'm just saying we have to identify. We don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another. I actually suggested this one. Family gathering. I was invited. Had a ground rule about off-limit topics, particularly politics. Worked well.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's all great things. And sometimes family is some of the hardest people. And we talk about this all the time, Dad. Sometimes family is the hardest people to interact with because they're the hardest on you. And their opinions and their feelings and everything comes off so strongly towards you, it can hurt your feelings in comparison to just hearing the other side of what they're saying. So yeah, creating boundaries, maybe have coffee with the person before Thanksgiving dinner. I don't know, but understand your boundaries, understand what works for you, understand what helps you be healthy, your healthiest self. And I think that's how you survive the holidays. Being alone is not always a terrible thing, but you have to identify, am I alone or am I lonely? And that was a great point. And I think that when you're lonely, what do I do to get out of this loneliness? What is causing my loneliness? And how can I be comfortable in being alone? It's not easy. It takes a lot of people many years to do, especially around the holiday season.
No, that's a really good topic. I'm going to pivot for a second. I want to ask you, my daughter, what is about the Christmas tradition that you will always want to embrace and you always want it to be a part of your memory and going forward? What is it about? Is it getting the gifts, waking up? What is it about Christmas in our family that if we didn't do it, you would be very, very disappointed?
Well, that's how we are with that. Devin, I think that we'll say the same thing. Like, why is it Christmas morning and there's no smooth jazz playing? I think that's our thing. Like, you have to have the smooth jazz playing as we walk out.
Yeah.
The Kenny G playing the Christmas album as we walk out and see all of the Christmas presents under the tree. Why is that not happening? And we have told you in the past, like it's around 10 o'clock because, we sleep in as we get older. We're like, Dad, we can't come out until you say, come out.
Yeah, put the music in.
That.
Right.
And I think my kids would be that way too, but we liked it was like the previews before the movie. We just like ramp up. But yeah, that's how we were. We just like run past or like look down at the tree above. So yeah, that's one tradition I think I would uphold. I still would uphold because that has nothing to do with the presents. It has nothing to do with the tree. It's very much setting the scene of this morning. And that to me, that's a tradition you can uphold forever.
Right.
For sure. Because it is nothing. It's just Alexa, play smooth jazz.
Yeah, I know.
I thought my Alexa was going to wake up. But
Alexa, get ready to play smooth jazz.
But wonderful, wonderful show. Happy Monday to all. Happy almost December, starting into the holiday season. We hope everyone had a wonderful week. Happy Hanukkah. We're very excited to have you guys here for this series. Once again, Giving Tuesday is tomorrow for RPFPC. You can visit their site, www.rpfpc.org, later this evening, but you also can find them at Chicago RPFPC on social media and Facebook. And you can find out how you can donate to help their academic scholarships and their youth grant. for their football teams in the Chicagoland area. What a wonderful show, though, Dad. It was just a fun time talking about the holidays in general. Holidays are fun times. And we talked about being home alone, as our little guy Kevin reiterates. We'll be happy to see you guys. We have an awesome rerun on Wednesday in case you guys didn't see it. And then we're going to have a great show for the huddle on Friday. So we hope everyone has a wonderful week. And we will see you guys. Wow. Friday for the huddle. Thank you to those of you who joined us, of course, for our YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and of course, our media platform, E360 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus. We use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others and strengthen their path to the family core. And of course, our slogan.
Let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love, especially this holiday.
Yep, especially this holiday. Everyone have a wonderful week.